Hi guys, and welcome to this weekly horoscope. This one is for Monday the 27th of June going through until Sunday the 3rd of July 2022. Thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to be with you today as always. I'm going to go through each day this week to see what the planets are doing, what energy they create amongst themselves, and how you can use that energy to your advantage. Now, the thing that kept popping out at me while I was looking at each day is that this week I feel it's really important to keep your cool. There are lots of planets in fire signs, so that inner fire is certainly very lit and things can get a little bit combustible, especially if you don't get your own way. So let's have a look. Monday, the 27th of June, we have the moon in Gemini. The moon in Gemini allows you to communicate very well and to look at situations in a positive kind of can-do way. So if anything is problematic or there are things that you need to deal with, you're not going to shy away from those. You're going to say, hey, if I look at this long enough, I'll be able to find a solution. I'm capable, I can inform myself. It's all very much about making progress and moving forward. The Gemini moon then conjuncts the communication planet Mercury, and that's also in Gemini. So Mercury is thrilled to be in Gemini because it rules that sign and it allows you to communicate very effectively. So if you need to get something off your chest, or if you need to get certain pieces of information to make sense of something, both these Gemini placements are going to really help you with that and make it a lot easier. The Gemini moon then, it squares Neptune and Pisces, so you're not going to be as willing to listen to your own intuition about things. You're going to be much more likely to listen to the wisdom of other people or what you're hearing. So just be careful with that and kind of check in with yourself before you rush off in any new direction. The moon also trines Saturn in Aquarius and it sextiles Chiron in Aries and Mars in Aries. So you're ambitious, you're driven, you're focused on making things better for yourself, and you feel like on some level that information is your friend. Other people have your best interest at heart, and if you discuss the things going on for you, then together you can come to some sort of resolution. And that's going to work very nicely for you because information is key here on Monday, and there are a lot of good ideas floating around which you can use for your own personal advantage. Mercury in Gemini also sextiles Chiron in Aries, and that's similar. It's all about my personal healing, what can I do to make progress, and information is going to be a huge part in that. So listening, understanding, making sense of things, but also expressing my point of view and getting my point across is really important. So if someone cuts you off, just with that, keep your cool and say, well, okay, I accept that they don't want to listen to what I've got to say. Maybe I will share this with someone else or in a different direction that's more productive. So you do have a lot of control of whether you do get frustrated or not, because you're able to redirect very quickly and you're very flexible and adaptable as the day goes on. Mars in Aries also sextiles Saturn in Aquarius, so there's this major desire to understand and to connect with other people who may have had more experiences than you and who could teach you and who could mentor you. So it's a little bit on the fence. On one hand, you're kind of willing to listen and to learn. On the other hand, you're not so thrilled when other people don't take your ideas seriously or when you're being sidelined. So just try and find a middle ground there. Overall, I think it's a really optimistic and positive start to the week. You're able to problem solve and to see alternatives very easily. You're flexible, individualistic, and willing to learn. Pursuing the things that interest you specifically, those are going to feel liberating and like a good investment. So information is key to help you get what you want or to do the things that you're interested in. There's not so much of a focus on being of service or being a humanitarian or educating other people. In fact, I think that if you have to endlessly explain things, that's going to get on your nerves a little bit. So there may be conflict in the areas that I mentioned just now. And particularly if you have to deal with something that you deem as completely unacceptable or unnecessary, you will assert yourself very, very easily and even excessively. So rather than just saying no, you may want to take that a little bit further and give someone else a piece of your mind, and usually that doesn't really achieve very much. It usually just insults people and alienates them. So I think the main thing on Monday here is to be willing to learn and to make progress, but to keep your cool as you do, and to accept that not everyone is going to agree with you. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Tuesday, the 28th of June, we have the new moon in Cancer. I've made a separate video on this, and The title I gave that video is The Perfectly Flawed Diamond, because it's a beautiful energy that allows you to look within and to see yourself as you really are right now, and the beauty in that, rather than just focusing on what you'd like to be in future. And I feel, or my experience has taught me, that acceptance of the self, where it is right now, warts and all, is really important if you do want to make progress. Neptune goes retrograde until the 3rd of December this year. So Neptune is an outer planet. It's the water planet of dreams and intuition. When it's direct, it means that you often get symbols and signs from the world and from your life and from other people. When the planet goes retrograde, it appears to be going backwards, and it means that your feelings start to become your best friend. Your intuition is heightened. You start to make sense of things internally and by yourself. So it's very much about you, the individual, the person. Okay, this is a situation that influences other people a certain way, but how does it make me feel? So you're much less likely to kind of dismiss your own feelings and your own needs. And because the retrograde happens on this day, and because it then lasts for a long time, I think that's why a lot of the conflict is possible here, especially if you feel like, wow, this was really important to me and you just waved it away. I'm not going to put up with that. So it's kind of like, when you're driving in a car and you're going really, really fast, and then suddenly you hit the brakes, it makes a big noise and the tires smoke. You're kind of being forced to go inward and to take yourself more seriously, and that could feel uncomfortable. But with the new moon in Cancer, that momentum is really, really helpful in seeing yourself as you are now and saying, in fact, it's not a luxury to listen to my own feelings and my own dreams and premonitions. It's a necessity that I do that. And it's this major shift in consciousness that may grate a little bit. So if there is irritability or frustration around that, I feel it's because of these influences. The moon then quincunxes Pluto in Capricorn. So there's the willingness to change and there's a willingness to do things differently. So that takes it down a notch. You're more willing to see your own part in the situation and to change as a result rather than pointing your finger. The moon does go into Cancer at 1:53 in the afternoon. So the moon in Cancer is much more focused on family, people around you, your feelings, taking care of others. The moon also then conjuncts the sun in Cancer because it is this new moon. They're both sitting on top of one another in Cancer, and it squares Jupiter in Aries. So there's this huge sense of drive and desire now to use all of this energy that you've got, not just to help yourself, but to help other people. And it's so strong that it's almost a compulsion. Now, if you have to choose, no, the message I'm getting is that you don't really have to choose. You get to see yourself as this amazing flawed diamond that you really are, and to accept that. And I think that then inspires you to help other people realize the same thing. So the two aren't mutually exclusive. You can do both. The sun in Cancer squares Jupiter in Aries. Okay, so friction between, do I go my own way or do I focus on the family, the people I love, do I take care of them? And I think you can reduce the friction of that square, the back and forth, by simply deciding to do both. And Venus in Gemini sextiles Jupiter in Aries. So that continues to urge you to get your own point across, to express yourself honestly and genuinely, and even to be creative and to speak your truth without self-censorship. So with the new moon, there's a major focus on personal healing and self-love. The intuition is heightened, and you start to rely more on your own inner messages that come through, and you honor them much more easily than, and this is interesting. So you're much more aligned with your own feelings and your own guidance and your own way of seeing the world, rather than what's actually happening out there. So you become very self-oriented on Tuesday, which is a good thing and a bad thing. So it gives you conviction on the plus side, but if you take it too far, it can go into delusion. So it's like, well, my feelings say that this is a nasty situation, but if it happens to be your 30th birthday party and everyone's showing up with a cake, then that's nice, It's like, why? So I think the message is, yes, of course, it's important to love yourself and to honor your own feelings, but because it is such a strong and powerful shift of Neptune and this new moon combined, that you may be unwilling on the downside here to recognize what's going on in your real life and to step outside of what you're feeling. So being open-minded and letting yourself be influenced to a certain degree by what's going on, particularly the good stuff, would be a good idea. The focus on the family and improving relationships is really, really strong. You may also miss someone from the past. So you may notice on Tuesday that you get a call from an ex, or you have the desire to call a family member you haven't spoken to in a long time. And the thing I put down here is because it is such an intense time, remember that relationships that haven't worked out or fizzled, or you no longer have contact with a certain person, there was a reason for that. And all this watery energy is going to urge you to overlook the fact that these relationships didn't work out and that they didn't work out for a reason. And you may be willing to jump back in, even if that isn't in your best interest. Writing, creative endeavors, and getting your feelings out, those are all supported by this energy. So try and focus on the good stuff. And if there is something that you want to hash out, I think it's a good idea to avoid conflict on Tuesday the 28th, because it gets muddled with all the water and then it becomes a whole drama and a chaos, and it's likely that arguments or conflicts become about things that you actually weren't talking about to begin with. It just gets a bit fuzzy. Wednesday the 29th of June, we've got the Cancer moon now forming a square with Chiron in Aries, and it sextiles Uranus in Taurus. So the focus on the family and creative expression and nurturing others, that's still very much there. But the friction now exists between Chiron in Aries and that Cancer moon. So is it my job to take care of everyone else's feelings, or do I owe it to myself to make sure that I'm in a good place? Again, I think you can do both. And I've mentioned this recently quite a lot, this phrase that charity begins at home. If you don't take care of yourself, and if you're completely run down, and if you're trying to help everybody else, you can't really sustain that, because you do need to include yourself in that equation, and taking care of your own needs is important. Uranus in Taurus, that influence, that brings in a lot of change and things that are unexpected and things that you maybe hadn't planned on dealing with. And even with those kind of things, you have a lot of patience and you say, this is something that's going on in my life, I'm now going to tend to it. So the positive kind of can-do attitude is still there, and you're not going to be overly frazzled, I think, by things that are completely out of left field. With all this water though, and the lack of clarity between do I help others or myself, it can turn into a bit of a pity party, I think, because all this water, like if you're focusing on yourself and you're trying to make progress or heal yourself, or during the new moon on the day before, you really saw that you're trying your best and that you're working very hard to accept yourself and do everything you can. If something drastic happens via Uranus in Taurus on Wednesday, that's unpleasant as far as you're concerned, so you immediately judge it as bad, you can potentially enter victim mode. And rather than seeing this as something that has happened, it starts to become a personal attack. So it's like everything bad that ever happened in my life is now not just coincidence or something that I played a role in creating or manifesting. It's really this sense that, wow, someone is sitting up there pointing their finger at me, trying to make me suffer. And that's usually not the case. And it's usually not that simple. Usually we do play a role in our own undoing. Usually certain situations do have silver linings in them, even if they are deemed to be negative, and they can serve as opportunities. So on Wednesday, it's again important to try and step out of this excessive focus on the self and my needs and what I'm going through and me, and that everything in the world that happens is about me and is a reflection of the world and its attitude to me. It isn't. So do look at your own part in things on Wednesday for a more balanced perspective. On Thursday, the 30th of June, we've got the Cancer moon now opposing Pluto in Capricorn. So this creates even more unexpected circumstances, which you may not be thrilled about. It squares Mars in Aries, so it's like, why do I always have to fight everything? Why does everything feel like a battle? So I think Wednesday and Thursday Those are the 2 days where you may feel this sense of frustration, and I'm always like in a fight here most profoundly. And I think Wednesday and Thursday are the most important days to keep your cool and to not snap and lose your temper. The moon then also trines Neptune in Pisces, and it quincunxes Saturn in Aquarius. So other people are there to help you and support you and offer their wisdom and guidance. And also your intuition is going to offer you practical solutions. So on Thursday, with all this unforeseen change and all these circumstances that come in that you weren't planning on, you may be overwhelmed by the chaos, particularly in your working life and in your physical environment and your circumstances. And it may be something really small, like a light switch no longer works and you have to call an electrician. Or it may be that something drastic changes in your work and you're like, what now? I wasn't planning on this at all. Tend to those things. Don't stick your head in the sand. Say, okay, I do have the capacity to deal with circumstances, and that's a much more constructive way of dealing with things. You may have a tendency to throw in the towel and to escape, to say, do you know what, this is just too much. I don't want to deal with any of this. I'm out. Bye. So keeping it, taking a deep breath. Okay, this is something that's happened. And trying to understand the situation, even if you're not particularly interested in why something is happening, you just don't want it to happen, so you go into denial about it. By engaging with that, it may feel a little bit tedious. It's like, oh, I'm spared nothing here. And you can, but if you hear yourself saying, God, I'm really not spared anything in life, then you can be pretty much certain that you have gone into a little bit of self-pity mode, because it isn't just that you're here to endure everything. Things happen to everybody, and by trying to problem solve and work with those things, that's the best way forward. So even though it may feel a little bit tedious that you're having to go through something less than perfect again, or something that you don't want to engage with, it'll be worth it in the long run. So escape isn't the way forward. Dealing and facing the music is going to be much more productive. Okay, so now we're in July. Friday the 1st of July, we've got the moon going into Leo at 2:40 in the morning. And that's a major shift. Cancer is about the family, and it's my job to keep other people happy and to nurture them and to make them sandwiches and things. The moon in Leo is much more about, I'm alive right now, I'm breathing air, therefore it's time to celebrate and to enjoy this moment. The Leo moon trines Jupiter in Aries. So the things that I've planned for myself today are very important. And if anyone throws a spanner in the works, that is not going to go down well at all. And it sextiles Venus in Gemini. So you want to have fun, you want to express yourself, you want to engage with things that are beautiful and positive and that make you feel good. And the tolerance level goes right down. Mars is also in Aries. Mars is ambition and drive. It's in the sign that it rules Aries, which wants to make progress more than anything else. That squares Pluto and Capricorn. So again, unforeseen circumstances that you hadn't planned on may really throw you for a loop. And being interrupted is something that you don't like. Being challenged, contradicted, things that really cross you are going to feel much bigger than they actually are. So if something does cross you, deal with it and tick that box and try and resolve it as soon as you can, and then be on your merry way and do the things that you enjoy. Try not to get sucked into the issue in itself and blow it out of proportion and ask, why did this happen and how could this happen, and I'm going to make sure that this never happens again by having a go at people. That's not going to help. So with all this fire, I have mentioned that there's the potential for major conflict, but ultimately you start the month really confidently and you snap out of self-pity mode here with the shift from the moon being in Cancer going into Leo. And you move over into fun mode and holiday mode and enjoyment mode. You'll want to look at things in a way that means I'm not going to take things so seriously. I'm not here to just work and break my head over certain problems. I'm here to have a good time too. So the perspective does change drastically. And to the extent where you may wonder how your view affects your experience of reality. Because it's really like nothing has changed drastically in a real world sense, but suddenly you feel a lot better, and suddenly you're not so invested in every little problem or every little gripe. And it's like, wow, nothing is really altered, but I have. So I feel that's a really strong life lesson, and it it's interesting that it's on the 1st of July, because in July, I feel there will be moments like that. How am I going to react? And you have that 3 seconds before you launch into a tirade or you don't do anything. But it gives you that little bit of space to step back and to say, okay, how am I going to react to this? I have control over it. And things don't need to be perfect for me to have a good time and for me to enjoy myself. Saturday, the 2nd of July, we have the Leo moon now forming a trine with Chiron in Aries. So this is very much about, it's my duty to take care of myself first and foremost. And that's a nice extension of the Cancer moon that we had on Tuesday. It squares Uranus in Taurus, it opposes Saturn in Aquarius, quincunxes Neptune in Pisces, and sextiles Mercury in Gemini. So the only personal planet involved here really is Mercury in Gemini. It is my desire to communicate and to get out in the world and to explore new stuff. But the outside world seems to impose itself on me, and I feel a little bit pressured now. It's like, ooh, there's a bit much that's keeping me from having a good time, and I don't like that so much. Mercury in Gemini trines Saturn in Aquarius, and it squares Neptune in Pisces. So it's almost like you're being bombarded with information that you haven't asked for, unsolicited advice, roadblocks put there via other people. And again, the tolerance level for that kind of thing is zero. So on Saturday, I already mentioned that Wednesday and Thursday are important to kind of keep it together. But Saturday, I feel, is the day when you can really blow up. So the reason I say that is because of all these outer planets, these imposing energies encroaching on the Leo moon, which is like, why is everyone trying to rain on my parade here? I really don't like it. So the undercurrent of irritability and not getting what you want, that may come to a head if you feel disenfranchised or dismissed by a situation or by another person, and you're likely to blow. So you're likely to blow if you don't get your way, regardless of whether someone is being rude or dismissive. I think it's best to suit yourself on this day, and that's the way to play it safe, to really say, what is it that I want, and I'm going to go and do that. Because you're likely to be a little bit ready for a fight, even if you aren't being challenged or contradicted. It's just like, wow, I didn't get what I want here, so I'm going to ruin it for everyone else. If I'm not happy, then why should everyone else be? So on Saturday, you're not very willing to compromise. It really, and don't force yourself to, play the role of I'm the humanitarian here if you really don't want to, because other times that may just cause you a little bit of irritability and grinding your teeth. But on Saturday, you're not willing to bite your tongue, and if it annoys you, it's out there. Sunday, the 3rd of July, we've got the Leo moon now trining Mars in Aries, so loads and loads and loads of fire over the weekend. It sextiles Mercury in Gemini, and it quincunxes Pluto in Capricorn. So I need to express myself no matter what, and I really need to give my 2 cents on the things that have happened and how that's affected me. So it's not that you're in self-pity mode now. I think on Sunday, the 3rd of July, you're much more in self-righteous mode. The moon enters Virgo at 2:31 in the morning. That cools things off a little bit because Virgo is an earth sign that's focused on understanding and working with information. It's not so impassioned, it's not so fiery. And the Virgo moon then quincunxes Jupiter in Aries. So it's very much now about, I have the patience to try and understand what's going on. It's not just about my fun levels and what I want to do. Mercury in Gemini quincunxes Pluto in Capricorn, and that's really the crux here, that you're willing to work with situations that you hadn't planned for or that you need to resolve. And there's no longer this huge emotional response of, why is this happening to me? Why am I the only one who's being screwed over here? It isn't like that. And that's really the faulty perspective of the week, that there's a sense to take everything in the way of, this is about me in particular, and that is unfair, and I'm not willing to stand for it. It really isn't just about you. It's, like I said earlier in one of the other days, it's just that lots of things are happening. Certain things are going to be good and great that you like, and those you're not going to complain about, and you're going to be very willing to accept. But the things that you don't like, you jump on immediately and judge them, and then it's like, no, I'm unwilling to even engage with this, and that is the problem. That's the disconnect. So the Virgo moon allows you to calm down a little and to stop taking things so personally. The reasonable attitude that gives you allows you to get organized and settled and to make genuine and practical plans for the future that are sensible and not based on reactive emotions. So Sunday, even though we still have a lot of fire, you can have a good time. You can feel carefree, but you're not so willing to explode, and you're not so willing just to see everything from your own limited perspective. You know, there are billions of people on the planet. It makes sense on an objective level to look at things in a way that kind of imply that the existence of this entire planet is about you and your experience. I'm not saying that isn't important, but if you take it to that extreme and say everything that happens is simply about me, it's just not accurate. And it can make you feel victimized because there are a lot of things going on. So that's what I get for you this week. I hope that gives you something to work with. If you'd like a personal reading with me, please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on Book Your Reading to order your reading with me. In my personal readings, I use astrology, the tarot, and numerology. I combine all three to give you answers. So if you have questions about your life purpose, what's coming next, moving, finances, relationships, health, spirituality, or anything at all, please do get in touch with me for a personal reading. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please hit subscribe and share the video online. Have an amazing week here, and I'll speak to you next week. And check out that video on the new moon in Cancer. It's really an opportunity for anyone who struggles with themselves to fall in love with yourself and to appreciate everything that you're doing for yourself. And in fact, seeing that will help you avoid victim mode later on in the week. So have a great time, and I'll speak to you soon. All the best.